There's once a time, folks, where the singer wasn't the only part of the process of creating music. There was usually also a songwriter. They weren't always one and the same. In some cases, they certainly were. However, in others, a skilled penman was able to sculpt out words and melodies that were better sung by others. We lost a great gentleman a couple of days ago who was able to both use the pen and his voice to touch literally millions upon millions of people. And that's, of course, Robin Gibb of the Bee Gees. Now, Robin Gibb and his brothers, Maurice, Andy, and Barry, had started to perform together all the way back in the 1950s now. At that point, Andy was too young to join the group. He would join later on. But they were literally performing that way they could scrounge up money to live. They were literally making a living by singing on the streets or in local stations and things like that, just to make some cash. They were eventually discovered. They were ones to have some rich harmony, some great sound, and it's kind of a remarkable story. They struggled for most of the first part of their career, the first decade of their career. In fact, they went without really having a major hit. However, the one thing that was happening was that both Robin and Barry were endlessly writing, song after song after song. And eventually they were able to break through. Eventually they were able to break through in Australia with a song that was released in 1967. And they were able to cross over into international waters shortly thereafter. However, they still, once again, in the early 1970s, seemed to be reaching a point of stagnation. Not to mention, at the same time, they were starting to break off. There was started to be a little bit of conflict amid the band. But then the disco craze happened. Then Saturday Night Fever happened. Then you get all of the great hits that you remember the Bee Gees for. But the funny thing is that there's tons of great hits before that. They weren't always a disco act. It's not like they had invented this disco sound back in the late 1950s and it simply took 15 to 20 years for it to catch on. No. Instead, this was an act that was doing what just about everybody else wanted to do at this particular point. They wanted to have rich harmonies and a great rock sound, kind of like the Beatles. And you know what? They had a damn good idea going with it. If you listen to some of the 1960s to early 1970s material, it's fantastic. They have very, very good melodies. The songwriting is all extremely crisp. These are pop songs that you can not only relate to, but don't bore you. They don't try to overbear your mind, nor do they try to overpower you with cheesy cliche. Instead, these are gentlemen that are doing what they were simply born to do, and doing it rather well in a time in which they were maybe a little less than appreciated. Their singles continued to chart, don't get me wrong. However, it was not something where they were getting smash after smash after smash. No. But that time would come later. That time would come with Saturday Night Fever. That time would come with songs such as Stayin' Alive. That time would come while writing songs for the other elements and the other performers on that soundtrack. Songs like If I Can't Have You. The songs that the Bee Gees were able to construct not only in the latter part of the 1970s, but throughout their entire career have been covered by literally thousands of artists. And some of the names are quite impressive. You know that you have longevity in the music business. You know that you've been there for a long time if you were covered by Elvis. And think about the time frame of when Elvis passed away. Think about the time frame. Mainly because at that point the Bee Gees were just starting to get a little bit of international acclaim. Janis Joplin, the Flaming Lips, just to name a couple. This is an act that certainly has not only inspired vocalists and instrumentalists alike, but also have just crafted out a legacy that is unlike any other. As songwriters, they were responsible for 13 songs being on the Billboard Top 100, and 12 of them entered into the Top 40 in the late 1970s, right at the height of the disco craze. Die-hard fans may have turned away a little bit because disco is kind of a far cry from what they were doing. However, those who were involved in disco fever loved it. Afterwards, they continued to write songs. They continued to release albums, some solo, some as a collective. After young Andy died in the latter part of the 1980s, they continued on without him. However, there just seemed to be a void. He died at only the age of 30, so it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. However, the band continued to press on. They continued to wow fans and sell out arenas. However, they were able to do that without the necessity of a #1 hit. A constant #1 hit. Didn't even have to be anywhere close. The fans were there. They already had them. Because they knew that this was an act that was transcendent. They were able to go from pop music to disco and right back to pop. They were able to blend in country. They were able to blend in progressive rock. These guys were not just a one-dimensional act focused on one style of music. They might be known for one style, but they were far from one-dimensional. They were multi-dimensional, and they were groundbreaking. It's sad that I have to do this review that I have just done of the Bee Gees after Robin Gibb's death. However, it's also akin. It's also extremely fitting. We lose one of the great voices. We lose one of the great penmen. One of the great songwriters that music has perhaps ever been blessed us with. And we get to talk about our favorite memories. We get to talk about what songs we loved the most, what we hated about disco, what we loved about disco. And for some of you younger fans that are looking at me like, you listen to the Bee Gees? Yeah, I love the Bee Gees. They're a fantastic group. Something that you guys should definitely check out. If you guys say that you like the Beatles, but you don't like the Bee Gees, then there literally is something wrong with you. Because early on in their career, there was a little bit of a difference, but not much. And basically think of it this way. Imagine what the Beatles would have done had they continued on instead of breaking up. The Bee Gees got the opportunity to live on for 50 years in their career. Robin Gibb got to pen literally thousands of songs for various artists. The man lived a storied life. And now, we should make his death storied. We should celebrate his music. We should celebrate his legacy. We should celebrate the Bee Gees. Whitney Houston's old news. It's Robin Gibb and the Bee Gees time.